Hello there, it's Bob, your friendly neighborhood iPhone repairman. Today we're going to try to repair this iPhone. It has a bunch of problems. One is that the lock button doesn't work. The second is that all the digitizer or touchscreen is very jumpy. It kind of automatically presses its own buttons without anybody touching it. And the history of this problem started with a bad charge port wasn't charging properly, and the home button was sticky. This was when it was Melanie's phone. I told her I wanted to fix it, but being a clever negotiator, she said she'll give me one chance to fix it. It has to be during a day when she can get over to the Verizon store in case I failed. And of course I failed, and she was able to go to the Verizon store and get herself a new upgraded phone. I didn't give up though, and I got the what happened was when I tried to repair it, I screwed up with putting back the LCD screen, and I damaged the ribbon wire. So I ordered a new LCD screen, and when I put that on, I broke something else, the lock button and proximity sensor, tiny little part that's in the phone. And when I ordered a new one for that, I took it apart and found out that it was the wrong design. It was for a different kind of iPhone 4. It was for an AT&T model. Believe it or not, there are two different versions of the same iPhone 4. And so finally I ordered the correct proximity sensor, and that's what I'm going to be putting in today. So we're going to start by removing two screws at the back. And then this back panel will slide off a little bit, a quarter inch to one direction, able to be removed like that. Then the battery can come out. We have to remove it with a spudger, they call this, to peel off the connection, which I just did, and now the battery will come out. We're going to start by unscrewing these pieces here. There's a miniature Phillips head screwdriver which you can get when you buy your parts. Very tiny screws. Keep them in separate compartments over here to keep track of them. There's two screws that have that cover a shield, protective shield on top of this area. Then you take your spudger and you peel off this connector. Here's a tiny shield that comes off, because there's a wire that you have to take off, and I'm going to use a tweezer to pull it off and get around there. Now this whole speakerphone assembly comes off, and I will store that with the screws. Next, we're going to start peeling off these various connectors using the spudger. So you can see here, this connector comes up, this comes up. They all just pop out gently. The phone can come out. I'm sorry, this is this is your camera piece. It comes right out. Be careful, there's another piece behind it, that a small metal piece that just sits in there. I'm going to take this off. Here's your camera. This other screw is holding in a small electrical piece that gets connected near the camera. I'm going to keep track of all these things. Along with their screws. This is the motherboard we just took out. This is the brains of the camera, of the phone camera and video and all of that. Now we take 3 screws off of this side and 3 screws off of that side and 1 screw out of each corner to take the cover off. I'll just this is also the vibrator over here, which I'm prying off. It's glued on to this particular kind of model. It just comes off access to the screws back here. I'll just show you the first one, and then I'll put the camera on pause while I do the others, and we'll fast forward past that. Okay, now I've completed the removal of the screws on this side, that side, and the four corners, and you'll see that there are complicated attachments and electronics here that are going to be pulled out of a hole. You have to do that very carefully so that you don't damage any of these pieces that are coming out of the hole. Okay, I have replaced the proximity sensor. This was the previous one, part of it. It actually broke, which is why I guess it doesn't work. These two small pieces here relate to where it senses where your finger is on the screen. And this part where I'm pointing to with the tweezers is where it broke. I was too aggressive in a previous repair. And I replaced it with a new one now. I'm going to start reassembling everything. This, I believe, is with the earphone speaker here. Put that back. And now we can put the, this is a new LCD screen which I bought because I damaged it the last one, previous repair. So I'm going to remove this blue item here. Looks like I just peeled off a bit of the mirror, which I'll get rid of that extra glue, not touching anything. These sensitive parts are these two ribbons, which I have broken before in previous attempts to repair. So I'm going to slide it through. I hope you've noticed where I'm sliding through these holes here, and the trick is to get it fully through there without squeezing anything improperly. Just ease it through, and then this should all slip together properly. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now I can start screwing back these attachments on the screws attaching the various. There's 6 screws that you have to tighten to attach the LCD and digitizer screen tightly to the front. Okay, got the 4 screws in. Now, what's next? Next, we put the vibrator back. It sticks on to the board here with some adhesive that was left over from when I removed it. Just like that. What's next? Now we will put this speaker phone, I believe it is, down at the bottom here. Actually, yeah, I'll just leave it like that. It's not really. I'm not going to attach it. I will put the motherboard back though. This is a motherboard, the brains of the phone, and it goes in here. Underneath a bunch of these tabs and flaps, ribbons, etc., including the new ribbon I added for the new proximity sensor. It's tricky to pull them all back and get everything in the right place. There we go. Okay, that's in place and looking good. Now we take some of these larger screws, actually. These are the ones that will attach with a straight screwdriver. Other screws can fit inside these larger screws. The tops are drilled out to accept smaller Phillips head screws. Okay, I've got the motherboard in, screws in, the speakerphone down here. I had to wind a little wire in and push it down. It's a Wi-Fi antenna. And now we can, let's see what we want to do now. We want to I actually put this little piece it has some prongs on it, cover one of the attachments of the one of these attachments here, and screw that down. That's done. Ribbons is the word I was looking for. Now we can just push down all these ribbons onto their respective connectors, including the LCD, the digitizer. This is proximity. I don't know what this one is. Here's my new proximity attachment ribbon. Volume button, perhaps. Don't want to fool around with this too much. Now, the camera. Here's the camera. One of the two cameras. There's a camera that faces in each direction. This slides in here, and then the ribbon gets squeezed down onto its connector. Everything's looking good to here. Now, let's see. And now the shield that covers a lot of these ribbons and attachments, this shield goes on here. Two tabs slide in first. And then several screws, 5 actually, go in. Okay, that's done. Now we can reattach this long flex cable which connects the charge port and some other things to the electronics. There we go. Now there's this shield, this last shield that goes over that connector with 2 small screws. I think we're just about done here. And now all we have to do is put the battery in, which snaps on down here. And I have an extra screw. Hopefully this will fit in a spot to secure the battery. Oh, I lost a screw. There it is. Aha! Done. Now, put the back on. Put the 2 main screws in. Now let's see if this phone works. This is the lock button that was part of the proximity sensor attachment that was one of the reasons I had to replace it. I broke the piece. It used to look like this. These 2 pieces used to be one, abracadabra. But I broke them on a previous install and the lock button didn't work. And the proximity sensor was all jumpy. That is, you could not even be touching it, and all sorts of buttons were automatically being pushed. So, looks like we have a working phone here. Safari, apps, messaging. Oops, let me show that again. And if this lock button works, then we will have accomplished our objective. Ta-da! Mission accomplished. Signing off.